Hey everyone, John here from CONTRABIM, and welcome back to another short tutorial here on Archicad. Specifically, we are going to be continuing on with our mini-series on roofing. Before we jump into the exercise for today, just want to do a really quick recap here on what we did in part one. So part one was all about just our basic roof elements. We were using a composite structure here for like a standing seam sheet metal roof. So what we did is we went through and we talked about different modeling methods and specifically how you can go through and start assigning custom edge types here so that we can really dial in our takeoff values and get the correct quantities for all of these different edge conditions. So we did that for the single plane roof. We did this for these single planes that were mitered together, and then we did that also for this multi-plane roof. And we built up from scratch a takeoff report here where we went through and kind of broke out our different sections. We worked in some different parameters, and we built up one by one our different takeoff values for all of our different conditions using just those very simple geometry methods with our composite structure. So in this video, we're going to take it just a little bit further here, and we're going to transition from using, again, our composite structures into using some steel deck profiles, which can be really useful for a lot of different purposes. Often you'll see these used, or often I'll use these, to be honest, in the cases of modeling in like composite decks or flat type decks. So we can get good takeoffs with them for just those typical purposes, but they also work pretty well for getting some standing seam sheet metal profiles or some kind of wavy ridge type, and they have a lot of settings within here where we can go through and quickly adjust the geometry of them as well. So we'll be going in modeling with some of these different objects, and then we can also go through and start tracing out some of our different flashings that will take place either on our eaves for like a drip edge or a gutter. We don't really have any valleys on this particular project, but if we did, we'd be using a profile like this. We do have our gables that we can assign a profile like this. We can do our peaks, our ridges, and then our side and end wall connections. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is going through adding some flashings and modeling in with some sheet metal profiles here. So I think what I want to do is let's jump into this object real quick and take a look at the settings. So you can find this object under our in the USA library. It's under our Division 7 for thermal and moisture protection. It's actually here under our 0740 roof and siding panels, and here you'll find the steel deck. So within this object, we have a few different profiles out of the box that we can go through and utilize. We have like kind of our typical composite type profiles. So does it give us a preview on what types these are? I thought it did. But we have wavy types, we have a few different composite types, and then we have this trapezoid type here as well. So any of these you can go through and just kind of pick and choose which ones you want. There's some default profiles already set up and ready to go. So you can go through and pick and choose from what they already have, or you can go through and customize these yourselves. So lots of different options here with setting these up, and it just depends on what type of shape you're going for. And if you have a specific, like a spec on the size that you are wanting to use, then it's really easy to just go through, pick the one that's closest to it, and then make the modifications. So, okay, so with this particular example, I think we'll start here with this trap profile, and we'll make some adjustments here to our sizing. So we'll set this to custom. Maybe we'll set our top here to like 1 inch. Oh, let's see, 1 inch. And so you'll see that this is an invalid 3D symbol. In this case, it wants us to be to have this bottom section smaller than the top. So if we go like let's go 0.25 inches, 1/4 inch at the bottom, then we can start seeing it come through. If we actually have a little bit of a slope on this one right now. So if we set this down to 0, we can get a little bit better profile or picture of that right now. So honestly, a little bit too small to really see, but at least it gives you an idea. And so, yeah, so if we go 1/4 at the bottom, we can then start setting our thickness. Maybe we'll go like 1/16 of an inch. So we have a real thin thickness to it. And we could probably go like maybe, I don't know, 1/2 inch on the top. And okay, so I think that's actually going to start working for us. Let's set this maybe 2 inches in height. And yeah, so let's actually set this to like 1/8 of an inch. 1/8 inch. Okay, so based off that, we should have a nice kind of clean shape here. Let's check it out real quick, see how we're looking. Okay, so I do like that shape. Obviously, there's a lot of different variations we can add into it here. We can go through, we can set our spacing. So if we want a larger spacing between these sections, we can simply just adjust that there. So that looks pretty good. I actually think I want to take that and roll with it. So, okay, next step here is let's actually just take it. I'm going to copy it from this corner right here, and we're just going to come and drop it right here. And then let's go in and give it our angle on our slope. So we know our roofs are 20 degrees, so we can just simply set this and just make sure that it's nice and exactly how we want it. There's also some other settings in here that can be useful as well. Like we can give it these offsets, or sorry, not that one, but this one right. Which one is it? So there's an offset from like the base that we can give it as well. I'm just trying to figure out which one that is. Is it 1 inch right there? Oh, I'm not sure. Offset from, yeah, I think that's going to push it out in this direction. Oh, that actually set it down. So that's not what we want. Anyway, we can start with this and we can always lift it up as needed. But what's cool with these particular profiles here is you can actually just grab the nodes on the corner and then you can just take them and stretch them. So they're really easy once you get that shape there to just simply go through and stretch them to the locations that you want. And so obviously in this case, we'll be stretching this all the way over and snapping it right there. And so yeah, there we go. That would be how we can use this metal roof to get this particular shape. So, okay, let's check it out on the floor plan here real quick, see how we're looking. So this is actually on our ground level, so that's okay. We can see that coming through, which is fine. It's kind of interfering a little bit with our settings on our roof. So if we took our roof here, we can go in and we can just turn off our cover fill, which is, let's see, use fill from surface. So we can turn that off, and then we can see the actual ribs of this steel deck profile that we've added in. So, okay, so that would be one location here. We can see it on our ground level as well as our top plate level. So that's good to begin with. Let's take it here. I'm going to snap it right there, rotate it around, and I believe this was also 20 degrees. We can pick up our roof settings here and just double check. So yeah, 20 degrees. So this roof shape will work very well for us as well. And then from here, we can just simply measure to our dimensions here. And we know that in this case, we really want to cut it about 11 foot 11 and 1/2. So I can hit X, copy, and then we'll just want to go in here and make that adjustment. So, so the way that we can start cutting these edges here is we go to our next option here in our profile settings, and we can just start providing the cut angles. So let's just start with like a 45-degree cut, and you can see how we're getting that little notch coming off here. So if we plug in like 3 feet, you can see it's getting larger. We plug in our dimension of 11 foot 11, and you can see how we're looking there. And so so with this, let's check and see how we're looking with our shape. So, okay, so we look good. We're looking good right here. We're a little bit off down here. So we're going to have to do a little bit more work to get that. So in this case, if we measure, actually, we can do this in 3D. So if we measure from this point down to this point, so what is that, 12 foot 8. So if we set our settings there to 12 foot 8, then it's actually going to take it all the way to the corner there. And so let's see how that looks. Okay, so we're looking good, well, pretty good down to this point, but now we're off a little bit up here. So there's really a few different methods we can use for this. I would probably say if we start cranking up our angle a little bit, it's going to get a little bit closer. Actually, you know, looking at this here, we want to be, well, we got some options. We can cut this, and so 12 foot 8 and 11 foot 11. Let's give that a shot. And I think that's going to get us pretty much right on. So, okay, that looks good where we are, yeah, right on that line. And then up at the top, we are looking pretty good there as well. But I think the way that I'm looking at this here, we actually have this cutting just a little bit too far. We probably want to pull this back so we're on the outside of our finish here. And then we can actually take and we'll add a flashing to really connect those. So, okay, that looks good there. That looks pretty good down there. We have a little bit of like a kind of a strange little piece here at the bottom, but that's okay. We'll cover that up with some flashings. So, all right, let's do one more visual check here in 3D. So yeah, that looks good. That looks good. That looks fine. And so now we can just take this and I'm going to do a mirror just right down our center line. And then now that we already have that angle worked out, we can simply just take this and drag it to the edge. So, all right, there we go. We have 2 of our roof sections worked out. The next thing that we'll do is we can actually just take this here. We can drag it up to the top, and we can see that we have, obviously, right from the get-go, we have a little different angle working at the top. So we're at 30 degrees up here. So that would be the first thing that we'd go through and adjust, is going to be our slope. So we can set that there. So that at least gets us going to the top. From here, we can take this and we can actually just pull it down to that particular point. And you can see how that already cleaned up really nicely for us. So based off that, we can go in and just kind of get an idea on our settings here. So we're going to want to essentially use this on both sides. So 10 foot 4, we can cut and paste it on both sides. Cut and paste this on both sides here. So we're going to have to cut that on the other side over there, but at least we can start stretching this, and then we can simply just go and make that adjustment. So copy that, paste that, and you can see that we have a nice clean roof segment here right on there. So that looks great. I'm confident enough in this one that we can take this and we can simply just go ahead and mirror it right down the middle. And next step is, let's just take this. I'm going to grab it, snap it right there, rotate, and let's see what happens when we start taking this and stretching it to our corner. So, all right, perfect. So because we had the same cut lengths there, it worked for us in both directions, which is awesome. Yeah, the one thing I don't like about this is our ridges are not necessarily matching up. So they're matching on this side, they're not matching on this side, but I bet if we undo that one here, and I'm just thinking, if we mirror this one exactly, can we get it to match up there? So no, we can't. Let's try something else. Let's take this. We're going to rotate here 180. We'll take this, snap it to a corner. So yeah, we're still off a little bit. So I'm trying to think, can we make an adjustment to our starting point here? So it seems like we need to adjust this over about almost 2 inches. So do we have that option here to adjust our starting point? I don't. Shift pattern 2 inches. So I think that was the opposite direction. So let's go -2 inches. Okay, so if we're at a pattern of 1 foot, then if we shift it 10 inches, then I think that might work for us. Nope, that went the opposite way. Let's just try 6 inches. Nope. So I think 2 inches was it from the beginning because we were actually starting, I believe, from that side. So, okay, so that's looking better, actually. And so once again, we can take this now and just simply mirror it across. So this one is now off. And so let's shift our pattern. Start with 6 inches and go from there. So that's close, but not quite there. Let's go 8 inches. Five inches. It's kind of a guessing game, but that looks pretty much right on. So, okay, so we got pretty much all the edges working except for this one over here. Which, is it going to be possible to get those to work? We're matching on one side, but not on the other. It seems like it should be possible if we got this side to work. So I don't know how we can shift one side though and not keep the other side. Yeah. So it's going to be one way or another, but I'd say whichever face you want to have look better from the outside, go with that. So I'm going to undo that and leave it just like that. So, okay, there we go. So we got our roofing on here. What we'll actually do here is let's go in and I'm just going to select all these. And I just want to demonstrate kind of some of the limitations with our takeoffs when we are using these particular roof elements here. So in order to get them to show up here on our scheme settings, I've actually set this up where we have a part 1 already and a part 2. So part 2 is what we need to do. So I'm going to add this to our phasing here. Just by going into our schedule, we're going to add that one criteria. So part 2, to get a little bit more breakout here, we're just going to give this a 1, a 2, and a 3 here for our different sections. And so now let's just do a quick comparison here. So we now have our trap profiles coming through. So let's just compare our trap 1 versus our standing seam takeoff from our roof elements. And we know this number was a good number, that 400.27. But we're looking here at our trap profile 1, and we can see that, okay, our area kind of gets close. It's actually really, really close in terms of our projected area. But the problem is our surface area is just way off, because with these objects, it's actually taking all different faces of the surface area and using that. So we can actually see that we're way off on that one. And unfortunately, I was digging around in the settings here under our library part parameters for that steel deck, and we do not actually have an area associated with that particular object here. So if we filter our folder for our used elements, we can find that steel deck really easily. And unfortunately, there is no there's no area that we can extract from that object. We'd actually have to get in and probably duplicate the object and go in and create some formulas and custom parameters to calculate that. But at the moment, we don't have time to do that in this video. That probably takes some tinkering on my end to figure out actually how to do that. But anyway, so that's one limitation here with this. But if we're modeling these base roof elements anyway, then we really don't need these particular takeoff values, because we can see where we're at here. 1048 versus 400, that's way off. 1800 versus 684. 926 versus 353, so we're almost like 2.5 times over, which is not good. We could always throw like a factor at it to actually calculate the ratio to get that to calc out, but in this case we already have the takeoff, so we don't really need these. So okay, so there we go. We've now modeled in our using our steel deck profile. We've got some nice different surfaces working for us here. We can always go in and make adjustments to this after the fact. So if we select them all, we can then just start making adjustments to our settings here. So say if we wanted it to be even larger, like 18 inches, we could really bump this up and have much larger spacing to it. We could shrink it down drastically to say like 6 inches, and shrink down our height to 1 inch. So if we wanted it to be much more fine in how it looks. So lots of different ways of getting these to provide just the visual look that you're looking for. So what else could we do? We can always, we can bump this up. I like kind of that 2 inches feels like a good distance. If we take this to say like 2 inches wide, if we left this here, it would give us kind of some really strange trapezoid type shapes. So that definitely looks interesting though. We want to make them just wider. We set this, if this is 1/8 inch, then if we set this to say like 1.75 inches, then it should give us like a pretty straight section cutting through there. So that looks good. We can, always bump this out a bit and go to 2 feet, 4 inches tall. So real quickly, we can make these adjustments and just quickly get some different views out of it. So okay, with that, I think we'll wrap this one up here for our steel deck profiles for our metal roofing here. We'll come back in the next video and actually go through and apply our sheet metal flashings to it. So we'll go through, we'll work on our end wall and sidewall conditions, our peaks, our ridges, our gables. We don't have a valley in this case, but we'll definitely work on some gutters and some drip edges. So that will be fun here in the next video. We'll wrap this one up right here. But yeah, if you have any questions on this, then please just leave it in the comment section. Just want to point out that we can always jump between different objects here as well, different profiles. We don't have to stay on that single one. We can actually, it should remember all of these different settings here. So if we actually change our profile over, we can go to wavy and get something totally different, entirely. So we don't have to stick with one of those or the other. So just wanted to point that out because that is kind of nice to be able to jump back and forth once you get the initial geometry working. So, all right. We'll definitely end this one here. I could keep talking about this forever, but let me know if you have any questions, and yeah, we'll catch you in the next video on adding sheet metal flashing to our roof.